All right, welcome to everyone who's joined us today for our webinar, A Software Engineer's Career Journey. This is a fireside chat with our Lockheed Martin Senior Software Engineer, Alex Ivanov. This webinar you're about to enjoy is in collaboration with Lockheed Martin Aeronautics and Engineering Connect. So shameless plug before we get started here, for those of you who kind of found us on social media or recommended to check out this webinar and are not familiar with Engineering Connect, I really urge everyone to check it out. We provide a unique service. It's an interactive online community that's connecting the future Lockheed Martin talent in engineering with the current Lockheed Martin engineers of today, which is really cool. You can sign up today. I actually put the link in the chat box, which is great. And you check that out. It's for mostly for early career engineering content, but you can connect with your peers, learn from our subject matter experts within Lockheed Martin, and then you can join us again for future webinars, tech talks, interactive hiring events, and really find out what your career at Lockheed Martin could look like before you apply. So today's webinar, again, is interactive. We did ask for questions in the community, so we have some questions that people submitted, but you can also submit throughout in the chat box, and we will try to get to as many as we can in the hour of allotted time. So with that out of the way, I'm thrilled to welcome today Alex Ivanov. And funny enough, we actually met on Engineering Connect, and we connected, and he told me his story, and I said, wow, this is an amazing career journey, and I cannot keep it to myself. So today we're going to find out more from Alex, but before we do that, Alex has let me know today is his birthday. So if anybody is on, can drop a little happy birthday in the chat for him, we'd really appreciate that. So happy birthday to Alex, and Alex, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. I appreciate you coming on. So like I said, Alex is a senior software engineer at Lockheed Martin. Well, we're getting a lot of happy birthdays in the chat, by the way, which is great.
I do see the things flashing. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch my
Try not to distract him.
But I do see a whole bunch of awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And a special shout out to those people that connected with me on LinkedIn ahead of this, because there's like 3 or 4 people coming in that I've spoken to on the phone ahead of this. So
yes, well, hey, that's what this is all about. This is all about making connections, and I hope you can appreciate over my shoulder here is a Yule log, so it gives us the fireside feel, because I really wanted to hammer that home. Okay, so before we get started here, we know that you are currently a successful software engineer, and we're going to find out about your career journey in just a bit. But I really wanted to know what did you want to be as a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, was engineering even a thought to you as a kid? What did you want to be when young Alex was a kid?
Software engineering was a process of elimination. I landed at I grew up in Boston, Brooklyn. I went to Brookline High, came out, applied to Boston University. I mean, really only because my mother worked there. So really my parents were like, hey, you've got no choice. You're going to this college. And I was like, okay. And I remember going to see my guidance counselor in high school. And she's like, Alex, what's your backup? And I was like, what backup? I don't have a backup. She's like, Alex, your GPA is 2.54. You need a backup. so I was like, oh, so anyways, I think it was my college essay and my SAT scores that really got me in. But I didn't get into the College of Engineering, which is where I was trying to go. So they put me into this like 2-year program. It was called Metropolitan College of Science and Engineering. It was basically for people that could be engineers, but for some reason or another weren't good enough. So 2-year program where they could make sure you could get a B- or higher average. And by the time I landed in the College of Engineering, I had to pick a major. And it was like, I didn't really like science or physics or biology. So computer systems engineering was like the one thing left. I was like, okay, I'll do this. And then really, I liked software more than hardware. So it really was a process of elimination. And so that's where I ended up starting to write code. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool.
Cool. So I guess early on, you didn't really have kind of any, not necessarily an interest, but you weren't really aware of engineering as a profession. So would you say that you know, what you found out in high school sparked that in you to become an engineer, or was it actually doing the coding and actually learning about it hands-on?
I don't think in high school I really had, I mean, my friends used to make fun of me in high school because I could barely like even touch the computer. Like I would go to my friend's house and be like, hey, please put on that game. And I didn't even know how to like launch the game or do anything. So let me be living proof that, I mean, you can go to high school not knowing anything about technology and then still get into software engineering. Yeah, it was just, I mean, a little known fact is that my parents are actually professional chess players. So that's like,
oh, wow.
I mean, so my parents were brought up in Russia playing chess. It was like this huge thing. Now, when it came to the States, chess was not a huge thing. So my mom was like, okay, well, I'm going to become a systems administrator. And so she got into computers and programming. And so I kind of followed my mom's footsteps, more or less.
How are you as a chess player?
I have trophies
All
from
right.
my elementary school days, and I'm still proud of them. But honestly, as soon as I hit high school, I dropped chess cold. Like, I thought it was not cool. I thought it was not cool, so I wasn't about to tell anybody like what my parents did or what I did. And I literally started playing basketball. It was like a clean break. I stopped playing chess. I started playing basketball, and really, right now I play chess with my son. That's actually kind of fun, but I mean, really, chess is not part of my life.
Do you let him win?
No.
Okay, yeah, good. That's
Yeah.
good fatherly advice
I'm
for
I'm
any.
I'm very competitive. I'm very, very, very competitive, like in everything. I'm either not
Yes.
gonna play or I'm gonna be the best. So
Well, hey, that's how you got. That's how you learn, right? If you lose until you win, right?
yeah.
Okay, so Engineering Connect obviously is about telling the engineer's story, the career journey. We love it when like what you just explained, from finding out about engineering, you didn't really know that much about it. You learned more about it, and then you decided that's what you wanted your career to be, which is awesome. So from that space, from that point when you started taking engineering classes to present day, take us through that journey. Take us through college. Take us through maybe your first job, and then how you got to Lockheed Martin today.
Okay. You might have to remind me along the way because I can see myself going off on a million tangents and I'll be like,
I'll
hey
try to reel
Corey,
you
like,
in.
okay. So yeah, so basically I started as a software development engineer developing radar displays. So about 1 year into my career, my boss said, Alex, this Visual C++ we're developing in, it's not really graphical enough. So they decided to bring in LabVIEW, which is like, for anybody that doesn't know, LabVIEW is like circuit diagrams. It's not code. So a year into my career, I had a very challenging choice to make. I was like, I don't want to design circuit diagrams, but my lead wanted me to do it. So I thought to myself, like, well, do I go along with what my lead wants? I did like working for my lead. Or do I just say, hey, no, I really want to code. Like, I want to code. So I decided to go along. So I'd say by the end of the second year, I picked up a second skill. So I was good at Visual C++ and I was good at LabVIEW. And by the time my time ran out, I had won a lot of brownie points with my lead. And so what ended up happening is that I was given like maybe a 3-month task to go work for a lady named Denise Langlis. So Denise Langlis was in charge of like this large Doors database, and Doors is an IBM tool. But so moral of the story is I went to work for Denise for about 3 months when my tasking was winding down. And I really enjoyed it. Like Denise had me writing what's known as DXL scripts. It's like automation for Doors. And by the time that my assignment was up with Trisha, who was my initial manager, she said, Alex, I can make you into a Doors lead on like project A. And I said, no, I want to go work on project B where I'm working for Denise. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a lead. It was like too nerve wracking. And so Trisha said, well, if that's what you really want, like, I mean, I'll try and see what I can do. And so she did it. She made me land on Denise's multi-billion-dollar project. So we're talking like gigantic program.
No pressure.
I spent the next 10 years developing DXL, like basically just automating the heck out of this Doors tool. The project was humongous. It was actually the Zumwalt Navy destroyer, for anybody who wants to look it up. It's an actual ship that the Navy paid Raytheon like tons of money to design, and it was actually a collaboration. So I remember spending like at least one summer on daily phone calls with Lockheed Martin Orlando. Like literally our team was so huge that my role was to support anybody, which was like 2,000 users split across 26 sites, anybody that needed help with Doors and the automation that we developed. And so I had daily phone calls with Lockheed Martin in Orlando. They were using some of the automation I developed, and I was being paid to like explain how to use the menu items. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So, but so it was a collaborative effort. I got a chance to become a really good DXL developer and start breaking out of my shell, because I used to be very shy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be afraid of picking up the telephone and just a whole bunch of stuff. And
How do you think you overcame that? Like, you seem like what you just explained, saying that you wanted to go work on Project B. It seemed like you had a lot of confidence at an early stage in your career. How did you kind of Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I think the project B was actually because of a lack of confidence. The project B meant I could work behind Denise and use
Okay,
her as a wall. So
got
like
you.
the only person I had to deal with was Denise, and she would deal with the outer world. So,
That makes sense. Okay, okay.
but in retrospect, it was a blessing because if I became a lead of a small project, like, yeah, I don't know where I'd go. But by joining a multi-billion-dollar project, I mean, even though I was completely hidden away, I got the exposure just in terms of working with Denise on like, we had like these challenges you can't even make up. They were just gigantic, like nobody ever seen them before. And so it was really, really exciting. So it wasn't until I started developing DXL and Denise had a chance to take me to a user group conference back in 2002. I went to my first user group conference in Vegas. We stayed at the Rio Hotel. And really what it was is just basically people that are using the Doors tool, coming together for a conference where the vendor, which at the time was Telelogic, is bringing together customers to exchange stories. So long story short, I spent about 5 years attending these conferences with Denise. And at the time I was very shy. So the only thing that I really remember for these conferences is open bar and awesome events. Like, I mean, you'd learn a lot, but then you could network. So for a shy software engineer, open bar was
Perfect.
wonderful.
Yep.
And so my first like 5 years of going to conference, it was just like a vacation to a faraway place. And then by the time that 2007 rolled around, my management said, Alex, we have no budget to send you to the conference. But if you get selected to speak, then we'll send you. Because if you get selected to speak at a conference, they will waive the $2,000 registration fee, which is huge.
Yes.
And so I
Yeah.
talked to Denise, and Denise said, okay, like I'll help you. If you want to try this, like I will co-author with you. I'll show you how to do everything. And so that's what we did. We actually, in 2007, 4 of us went from the team because Denise helped 3 of us with all our papers. So that was my first time presenting at a conference. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I still remember going to the aquarium. And I
You said
still
this was
remember,
2007. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
Okay.
2007.
And we're still at
So
Raytheon.
still Raytheon. Yeah,
Okay.
Raytheon's my whole life. I mean, I came to Lockheed in 2019.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Keep going with your.
So
I
yeah,
know. Sorry to
so
interrupt. I just.
that's okay. So 2007, I go to Atlanta, Georgia for my first ever, like, I'd say prolonged stage appearance. I'm nervous as all hell. I mean, basically all the stereotypes that you can imagine. Shy engineer getting up on stage thinking he's gonna like fall over and have a heart attack. Yes, they all apply. They all apply. But what I did, so I did 2 things that I'd never done before, which really helped me. So one, I created a podium at my house out of boxes. And for 3 weeks, like every single day after work, I would just speak my presentation to the wall, like for 3 weeks straight, every single day. Like I knew the content, I wrote the software, but it's still, I was very nervous. So I just spoke it, like I clicked advancing the slides. And so for 21 straight days, I practiced at my house. And then the other thing that I did, and again, you can't make this stuff up. Denise and I were scheduled to present as the very last speakers of the conference. I mean, like, so I'm nervous as all hell, and I got to wait 4 days until like the very last day to present. So in the 4 days leading up to it, what I did is I actually started walking up to strangers, which was really terrifying because I never walked up to strangers before. But it seemed like a better idea to walk up and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm nervous and I have this talk. So if you could like come cheer me on, that would be helpful. So I walked up to like 20 people. Like I'd never done that before, but that was less nerve-wracking than presenting to a room of 100 strangers. So it worked. By the time I walked around, like rolled around, I was still really nervous, but I could spot like the 20 people that are in the audience that really just like exuded like, hey, Alex, we want you to succeed. We appreciate how nervous you are. Like, it's okay. So they got me through it. I mean, that really was, that was like the big thing. So I got through 2007 and fast forward to, I mean, as far as speaking is concerned, I've spoken on 50 different stages. Like between then and now, I've been to 50 conferences. At one point in time, I was averaging 5 conferences a year, and it was IBM software, social media, enterprise collaboration, and Microsoft. So I've spoken on various topics, and I mean, I don't know the exact year I overcame my fear, but I'd say maybe like 2012. I mean, so maybe after five years of going to speak at conferences, I had one-on-one speaking coaching sessions with professional speaking coaches, which was a perk. IBM just gave it to me for free as a speaker. So it was like a win-win. I got a one-on-one with the guy that charges like $300 an hour in return for making me a better speaker, which in return made IBM look better because I was speaking at their conference.
What did that look like? What kind of advice did he give you?
So he gave me so much advice that I actually wrote a book on it. So one
Oh,
of my
wow.
books is like my own interpretation of his advice on public speaking. But basically, he told me to like use my hands, but he only told me this like on year number 3. We worked together for 4 years, basically 4 one-hour coaching sessions spread apart by 1 year. So it's like year 1, you give me tips. I'd come back next year and give me tips. So 4 one-hour sessions.
So he was like your sensei.
I mean, completely transformed my speaking, like completely. So the hand
That's
gestures,
awesome.
that came in like year 3. Because at first, he was just like, Alex, it's like you need to like raise your voice and you need to like kind of punch the word. So every 10th word, it was like, hey. And like you need to like go up and down. It was, so what he taught me is that I needed to have a lot of water because when you punch your words, you're going to get damn thirsty, like damn thirsty. And
I'll drink to that.
so he also said that instead of getting water bottles, you should get like wide mouth cups and like line up like 4 cups next to the podium, which I don't remember the exact reasoning, but I like it. So like when I walk into a room before I present, I literally, they always have like a water fountain in the back and cups. So I always line up at least 4 next to the podium. And I always try and get to the room beforehand. Like ideally, if you can get to the room like a day beforehand and just deliver the whole talk in the exact room you'll be giving it, I mean, that's priceless. That's, I mean, so
Yeah, get a feel for the room.
I always go out of my way to ask like, hey, when's this room free? When can I do a dry run? And so basically, as I progressed from really nervous to really confident, the barometer was like how many days ahead of time I would spend practicing at the house. It went from 3 weeks down to me having to force myself to do a dry run like once in the hotel room. Like I got so confident, I was like, Alex, like don't be an idiot. Just do this at least once, like the night before. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. I'll do a dry run once in the hotel room, and that's it. I really don't need anything more.
Wow. So okay, so we are at 2007 right now, right?
Yep.
We're up
Yep.
to 2012. When did you? I know you moved across the country from
Yeah.
You were in Boston when you were working at Raytheon. Now, when did you move across the country? Were you still with Raytheon as a company, or did
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yeah.
so you
So that
moved to where?
happened. Yeah. So that happened in 2013. In 2013, I found out the hard way of what happens when you land working for a manager where you do not click. So in 2013, I had a new manager take over, and she was a first-time manager, and she talked to a lot of people, and she was like, Alex, you are a really gifted software engineer, but you are developing this DXL code that we as management like don't care about. Like we need you to do something more meaningful. And I was like, I'm 10 years in. Like my personal goal at that time was to be the most sought after doors expert in the world. That was my personal goal. Like I wanted to be like the most sought after doors expert in the world.
Okay,
And
let's pause on
so
that
when
for a
my new
second.
manager is telling me like, hey, yeah.
Because I wanted to ask this because I have it in my questions, and you, so in your profile you are I don't know if you're self-proclaimed, you probably got this award, but you're a doors wizard.
Yes.
So explain to me, I'm a layman, I don't really know that much about Microsoft Doors or what it is, but I want to know first, before we continue on with your career, what is Microsoft Doors, and how
IBM. It's
does
IBM
one,
doors.
okay, I'm sorry, IBM Doors, and how does one become a wizard
Sure. That's a
yeah,
valid question.
yeah.
So IBM Rational Doors is a requirements management tool. It is the market leading requirements management tool. And requirements management basically means that if you are working at Lockheed or Raytheon, places like the Navy or the Army are going to basically mandate that system engineers put all the requirements in doors. Like that's not an option. So if you are looking to get in as a systems engineer, you could really elevate your chances by watching some doors videos, like landing in my LinkedIn profile. I've got like maybe 6 webinars I've given available on demand. So you could really blow away whoever's interviewing you by saying, hey, I've spoken to Alex and he recommends X, Y, and Z. So, but anyway, so doors is a requirements management tool that's used in aerospace and defense. Like aerospace and defense is, I mean, it's pretty much mandatory. And really it's just I mean, without getting into too many specifics, if you take a Word document and an Excel spreadsheet and you glue them together, that's what a doors module looks like. It's like the benefits of Word and Excel and a whole bunch more. because it allows you to connect individual paragraphs to one another. So you can create a gigantic tree where the customer says, hey, I want the ship to go, whatever, 50 miles an hour, totally making this up, but that's like a customer requirement. And in order to make that happen, you need to have electrical, software, mechanical, hardware, you name it, collaborates on every facet of the ship to make sure they can move a certain number of miles per hour. So it's this collaboration is what Doors does. It allows us to have all these different specialties come together on a common set of requirements based on which you then build the actual ship or whatever it is you're building. So that's the Doors tool. And the Doors Wizard is a self-proclaimed, it's my Twitter handle. It's my Twitter handle. I'm very happy I snagged it. What happened is that I think it was like maybe 2011, as I was already getting comfortable speaking at IBM conferences, IBM was like, well, for anybody that has a Twitter handle, we will create a poster of you that we will hang on the walls of the hotel to promote your talk. So what did I do? I bought a book on Twitter and I got an account. Like I never used Twitter before. So I was like, I'll be the Doors Wizard. And so basically, and actually I don't have it with me, but somewhere in my house, I have the actual poster. So they made me put my Twitter handle and they made me pick a word, like a word to describe myself. So the word I picked was mentor, because by that time I was mentoring a lot of engineers on how to use Doors. And so anyway, so I got a Twitter account. Doors Wizard is what I called myself. And it's just kind of stuck. I mean, because really, I mean, so my claim to fame is not so much that I know Doors, which of course I do. My claim to fame is that I'm a software developer and I've developed DXL. So what that means is that Doors is a tool, it's like Word, and DXL is analogous to like a macro you create in Word, where it's an extra button that helps you do something. So with Word, you're creating macros using Visual Basic, and in DXL, you're creating macros using DXL. And the whole Doors tool is built on DXL. So basically, IBM comes in and offers you like, let's say 75 menu items out of the box. It looks very much like a Windows Explorer, like the one where you have the files. It looks very similar. So IBM comes in, gives you 75 menu items as a starting point. And then they also give you a DXL manual, which is like, here's all the code, the functions you can use. And so just to put it in perspective, the reason I'm the Doors Wizard is because at Raytheon, I led the charge to develop 212 menu items. 212 menu items, which in other words is like a system engineering powerhouse. Like Doors to me is like a pebble. And what my team did at Raytheon is we transformed it into an efficient systems engineering execution machine. Basically, we brought in templates centered around the systems engineering and the product lifecycle. And we basically said, okay, here's what you do with requirements development, and here's what you do with requirements verification, and here's what you do to track your progress. So we developed automation for every single facet of the lifecycle. And really, I mean, so my claim to fame was the fact that I developed a lot of DXL. And as word got out across Raytheon that there's this guy, Alex, that can automate like your day job, people started being like, hey, I heard you have automation. I heard you have automation. And before you know it, I basically, when I had the unfortunate situation in 2013, where my manager said that she was going to reassign me because I was wasting away my career, I mean, I was really at a crossroads. It was really stressful. Thank God I had a mentor. I actually had an official mentor. So that's another huge tip. Like whether you get official or unofficial, just find mentors, find people that are where you want to be and learn from them.
That's great. That's great advice. And so that actually, I was going to ask you what kind of advice you'd give to someone who's starting out early in their early career of engineering. But I guess that's one tip, right? Get a mentor.
Yeah, get one or two or five. I mean, like I said, I'm happy to mentor people. I've got 2 kids and a wife and a day job, and I'm a published author. So I'm very busy, but I really enjoy like giving back. I mean, this fireside chat is my idea of, this is awesome, where I can answer questions and help a lot of people. So I could definitely see myself doing more of these in some capacity in one way or another.
Great.
Yeah, get a mentor, 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, I think LinkedIn right now is a superb platform for anybody that's even in college. I mean, How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile is my favorite book. It's by Brenda Bernstein. I recommend you grab a book and just kind of overhaul your profile. Like she has tips for college students and anybody. And then once you overhaul your profile, then you can learn from me or others on like how to use LinkedIn. Just literally start posting about what you're doing. Like, I think, Corey, you know Carissa. I mean, she started
Yep.
posting. And before you know it, she landed a job. And she's got like more followers than I do. And it's only been 2 months. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to your point too about getting over your fear of public speaking too, getting out there, talking to people, networking. And you're talking about what you're talking about is virtually networking, right? On
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes, yes.
And just letting people know what you're doing. This is what I'm passionate about. Hammer that home so people they know you when and then when they're thinking about, oh, this would be a good job for Alex because I already know he's a doors
Exactly.
wizard because he talks about it. So
Yeah, so I think, I mean, again, if I kind of put myself back to the way I was, I mean, if somebody told me like, hey, go out there and network, I'd be like, go away. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, what are you talking about? So the networking really only kind of came to be like around that 2013 mark. So what happened is that my manager back east, I mean, to shorten the story, she basically told me, Alex, I've spoken to a lot of people, and the person in charge of like software for like the whole entire business unit like wants to see you. She's like, this is an awesome opportunity. So I walked in. His name is Rick LaRoe. So I walked into his office and we had a chat about, he said, you know, Alex, this door stuff is not the most important thing. Like, you're really talented and you should focus your career or whatever on something else. And I said, Rick, with all due respect, I love doors. This is what I do. I'm helping lots of people. This is what I want to do. So the day after my talk with Rick, my lead came in. She's like, Alex, we can't seem to get through to you. So I'm giving you 3 weeks and I'm going to reassign you. So like, it might as well have been her telling me she was going to fire me, but she said it's going to be reassigned. And I said, what are you reassigning me to? She said, it doesn't matter. I don't know, but it's going to be something really far away from doors, like her exact words. And I was crushed. I was like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I do. So I talked to my mentor and I also talked to my clients. So by this point in time, thank God I had clients at Raytheon. They were using my software. And after I told him, I was like, hey, if you want me to help you, you need to do something. I'm being reassigned against my will. So I got 3 on the spot verbal job offers, 3. And in talking to my mentor, the one I chose was basically one offer came in from Texas. It was like, hey, Alex, I work in systems engineering. I'll get you a job as a systems engineer. Like, it won't be exactly what you want to do, but we can do it. Another offer was like literally from the director of systems engineering at Raytheon in Massachusetts. So it was like, I was working in a software section and the director of systems engineering was like, hey, Alex, like, I actually sat in her office and she's like, Alex, you're clearly not enjoying yourself. Why don't you just come work? Like, I'll put you in a systems engineering section. You can do your thing like right here. And I still remember the shock on her face when I said, Ellen, I appreciate what you're doing, but I talked to my wife and I'm going to take a job in Los Angeles, which was like, she was like, what? I'm like, yep, I'm going to leave this business unit. Like, I'm going to jump ship from the business unit I was working to a different business unit because I have a client in Los Angeles that basically, his name is Felix. And what he told me was like, Alex, I love your work. He's like, talk to your wife. If she's open to moving, that he would move mountains to get me out there. And once I gave him the green light, he made it happen. It was like, I still get goosebumps talking about this because what he did for me is he basically got me a job, not any job. He got me my dream job because he took my input. He's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to be a requirements architect where I could lead a team of people to deploy my software like across the board. And I could still develop. I could work with people I could work with developers to make it better. And yeah, so he made it happen. And I saw, like, for the first time in my life, like, what happens when you have really awesome clients. So again, I love being a software engineer because I can develop code, I can get clients. And I should note that I'm a special type of software engineer because I develop code for doors, which is an application that's used by your coworkers. So it's not software that's going on a airplane. It's actually software that's being used by your coworkers. And this is my daughter.
Another cameo.
We have a cameo appearance. Okay, are we done with the cameo? I need to keep talking. Okay. I need to keep talking. So anyways, she's 10 and she's a ballroom dancer. So for
all right.
They're twins. I've got twins, son and daughter, the ballroom dancers. So that's a separate conversation for a separate webinar. I mean,
yeah, we'll talk. I was going to say next webinar, we can talk ballroom dancing, how to play chess, all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah. But so anyways, so Felix basically gave me my dream job and he included a relocation package. So what I learned firsthand is if you make the right impression, not only can you land the job of your dreams, but it could be paid for. Like, so I saw for the first time in my life what happens when you get a professional moving crew come in and pack your whole house in one day. I was like flabbergasted. Like 4 people came in and packed our 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house like in one day. And then the next day, we basically got on a plane and flew to Los Angeles. It was just like totally like crazy. I mean,
And how long were you in that role in Los Angeles for?
So I was in that role for 1 month, which was really horrendous because I told my wife that we're moving to Los Angeles for my dream job. And at this time, my kids were 3 years of age. We had just bought our first house. Like, my wife loved the house. She loved the neighborhood. And here I am like, hey, let's move to Los Angeles. So it lasted 1 month. Like 1 month into my dream job, I had somebody, so I moved to Los Angeles, but I had somebody in Texas come in and be like, oh, like, wait a second, we already have somebody in Texas that's leading this requirements management charge. Like, we don't need your role. So they didn't fire me, but they basically said, hey, we're going to take your team and you're going to help us like pioneer this other software. And when I looked at it as a doors expert, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, they're basically telling me that what they have is like
better than what you were doing.
the best. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm an expert in this. That's not the best. And so they kind of came in with like a hammer, basically saying like, hey, like, we don't really care what you think. We are your bosses, so to speak, and we are going to make you do this because this is what the director of systems engineering wants you to do. And so that led to a very dark, like, 9 months of my life where my wife was all like she was frustrated. Like, we had issues with our landlord, with our neighbors. I had issues in the job. It led to a lot of soul searching. I literally lost like 15 pounds. Like, I didn't even know what happened. I lost 15 pounds and I broke out in hives on my back. And I didn't know that it was stress related until I went to see a doctor. So it was very difficult. The Felix, the guy that hired me, like, this was like 3 levels above his pay grade. So Felix and Luis, who are like section manager, department manager, they were loyal to me and they understood this was a difficult time. So I kind of said, hey, Alex, you are a doors expert. They're like, don't worry about these people in Texas. Like, why don't you just like not really deal with them? And instead we'll find you like work here and there. Like, you have a skill set that nobody else has. You can go in and like automate everything. So they found me like odds and ends jobs working in Los Angeles to help people with doors. Cause I mean, what Felix told me is like, Alex, like, the thing you do like in your sleep, other people are just like in awe. They have no idea that doors even has automation. And the fact that you know how to use it, you could like help a lot of people. And so fast forward to like 9 months in like 2014, I went to a conference because I enjoy speaking. So I went to a conference in San Diego and I met another Raytheon person who was really big in model-based systems engineering. So kind of requirements management and model-based systems engineering go hand in hand. And I think his name was Rick, and Rick Steiner. So Rick Steiner, like, he knew who I was, and I knew who he was, because what I didn't mention in all this is that I also started using social media within the walls of Raytheon, which, I mean, I'm going to backtrack for 2 seconds, because if I didn't start blogging and creating video tutorials about the software that I was using, I would never have met Felix, because we were connected through like, basically, I owned a doors community. So it was like kind of similar to Engineering Connect. It was basically an internal, I mean, it was internal to Raytheon, but it was kind of like LinkedIn and the concept of groups kind of analogous to that. Yeah. So I was like a group owner and I was blogging about doors, and some guy named Dan Margavio in Los Angeles posted a forum post. He's like, hey, how are our Raytheon counterparts using doors for requirements verification? So I posted, I'm like, hey, we've got this automated suite, which I like literally developed myself. It took me like a year. I developed it. It was gaining a lot of traction in Massachusetts. So anyways, Dan told Felix, it was like his teammates. And so before, again, we're backtracking to like 2011 timeframe, I got Felix on a Skype and I basically just said, hey, I've got software that I believe will help you. So from 2011 to 2013, Felix was like basically paying me money to help them use the software. So that was like my little segment here, is to stress the importance of using social media inside the walls of the company. Like at Lockheed, we have Slack. So Slack is awesome. We also have WordPress, which is amazing. So I've got like my own doors blog, which I'm just like, WordPress. I mean, you could start learning WordPress right now And regardless of whether or not you go to Lockheed or somewhere else, I would recommend that everybody create a free WordPress website for yourself and just blog about, I mean, you want to use LinkedIn for highlighting what you do, but in parallel, you could take like a class on Udemy on how to use WordPress for like $10 and just create your own portfolio. I know that some of you that are listening already have done this, which is awesome. So it's like a portfolio website. So anyway, so WordPress and Slack are two things that will help you. And so again, I'm fast forwarding back to 2014. I met Rick. I told him my sob story. He said, Alex, you need to talk to Mercy O'Hoyt. And I was like, who's that? He's like, she's a senior manager in Los Angeles and she knows people. So Rick helped land me an audience with Mercy. I walked into her office. I told her my sob story. It's like, hey, I came out here to like drive. So the Doors Toolkit is kind of like a code name for all of this automation we developed. So like, Mercy, I came out here for Doors Toolkit to drive it across Raytheon, but I'm being told you can't use it. We got to use this other stuff. So Mercy took me by the hand and she said, Alex, I'm going to go introduce you to Chuck. So Chuck was a systems engineering director that was basically, so systems engineering is like is a systems V. There's like a systems development side and a system verification side. So the systems development side director was making my life miserable because he took away my team, my budget, and made me do stuff I didn't want to do. Chuck was in charge of the kind of the right-hand side of the V. So we're talking like a guy that ran an organization of 3,000 people. I mean, he was a pretty important guy. When I told Chuck my story, he's like, Alex, why don't you just come work for me? And like, you can just do your thing. And I like walked out of there beaming. Like after 9 months of hell, I was like, yes. So I went back to Felix. I was like, Felix, I'm going to go work for Chuck and I'm going to be his operations manager. And then Felix is like, Alex, like, what the hell are you talking about? You're a requirements manager. You're not an operations manager. Like, do you really want to go and do something that's not your passion? So I remember talking to Felix. I remember going back to Chuck the next day and I was like, Chuck, you know, I don't think this thing is for me. I really am kind of hesitant. And Chuck was like, what are you talking about? You just told me you want the job and now you're backing out.
Now you got to take it.
So Chuck was like, what's your concern? So I said, Chuck, I like developing DXL. I like speaking at conference. So I gave Chuck a list of 8 things I like doing. And Chuck is like, well, how about you become my operations manager? I let you do those 8 things and then you'll do like 4 more things for me. I was like, okay. So basically we had an interview with HR and Chuck, lasted like 30 minutes. And it was a similar situation where it's just like, well, I can't give you a pay raise, but we can just get this going on paper. And so Chuck literally gave me back my life. I mean, Chuck, again, more goosebumps. So I don't get goosebumps very often, but between the move from Boston to Los Angeles and what Chuck did for me, those are 2 goosebump moments where it's like from 2014 until 2017, he gave me back my life. He basically said, Alex, do whatever you want, honestly. And so my expertise was doors and working with programs. So the only thing Chuck did was that he stopped by like every month, like unannounced, just to say, hey, Alex, I hear you're doing good things. Thank you. Like, that's it. And I mean, to this day, I do this with everybody I work with. I'm always going out of my way to say thank you because morale is huge. It is huge. I mean, so Chuck stopped by to say thank you. And also, Chuck dropped like these achievement awards on me. So like, if you're doing a really good job, you can get an achievement award. So in the 3 years that I worked for Chuck, I probably earned like $6,000 in achievement awards alone, like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, like all about 6 months apart, which was, I mean, so 3 years working for Chuck, just to put it in perspective, the other like 16 years, I got 1 team achievement award for 250. I mean, so Chuck is amazing. And so for 3 years, he gave me back my life. I was able to travel every month and a half to either visit a client where I was helping them with the Doors Toolkit, which was my software, or to go speak at a conference. So from 2014, 2017, I was averaging 5 conferences a year, and I didn't even have to ask permission. So the agreement with Chuck was that if I got selected to speak, he would cover the hotel, the car, the everything to get me to the conference. Because it looks good. If you get chosen to speak, it looks good because like you're representing your company as an industry expert. And
so we're still at Raytheon. How do we get to Lockheed?
Okay, so
And then we have a bunch of questions that came in. So
Okay.
after that,
So I'm gonna, So
we'll
2000,
go like kind of rapid fires.
So 2017,
Okay.
or Chuck is telling me, Alex, I'm gonna retire, and I'm like,
Can't go through it again.
retire. I was like, you can't retire. Like my whole kingdom is gonna collapse, and he knew it and I knew it, and so he said, Alex, you might want to start mending fences like now. So he gave me like a 6-month warning. He's like, you might want to start mending fences because Chuck and I mean, we work the same way. It's like my way or the highway. It's like, if you don't want to work with me, get on my way. And so unfortunately for me, and Chuck knew this as well, based on what I was doing, I guess the part that I failed to mention is that not only did I go work for Chuck, but he put me on his senior staff. So what this means is that I wasn't in the 3,000 person pyramid. I was one of 7 senior staff members that just kind of, we were experts in our domain and we did our things. So I got instant exposure. Like my meetings were with Chuck and his department managers. Each of the department managers were in charge of like 250 people. So we're talking like I got instant exposure to what happens at the higher levels. Chuck paid for me to attend 2 Dale Carnegie 8-week-long training seminars. One of them was how to be a more effective public speaker. The other one was on effective communications. So in the favor of time, I'm going to put all this stuff into a book that I'm publishing, like way off on the side. So like this will go in the book.
We'll get to that too, books later.
But basically, Chuck retired. I got recycled working for the very people I went running away from, the people that forced hives on my back.
Yeah.
And the only difference between 2014 and 2017 is that I had built a loyal following in the Los Angeles area. So I had like hundreds of engineers that were like using my software. So the Texas folks tried for 2 years to kind of shut me down. Like, hey, Alex, stop developing the software. We want you to do something else. But they couldn't because by then my software was already the Raytheon standard. All 4 business units were using it. I had basically trusted architects, which I trained myself, that were representing, like we had a corporate change review board. And so basically for 2 years, I was basically forced, my life was just made very difficult. Like I wanted to develop the software, but my very own management was like, we had this review board where it was like, if you had so basically there's 4 business units and we needed a vote of 3 to approve the defect, enhancement, or whatever. And so my very own management refused to let me have a seat at the board. I mean, I'm basically the chief architect and the technical lead of the software platform, and they refused to give me a vote because they didn't want me developing it. And furthermore, they put somebody on the board that was like my nemesis. I won't mention his name, but this is basically the person that single-handedly led me to all this stress. I would say he's not a very good person. And so basically we had these review boards where, I mean, what I was able to do, because again, my passion was to make sure that my software was being used, that kept delivering value. So it got to the point where I literally personally called up my trusted architects and I said, hey, we've got this guy, Jim. Okay, I mentioned his name. That like doesn't want to approve anything.
Jim Smith.
Jim Smith. So I was like, so what I want you to do, I was like, when anything comes up during the review board, if I say that I'm in favor, I want you to vote yes. And of course, they're loyal supporters. They're like, okay, that's fine. And so that, I mean, literally, I was just glowing in the inside. When we had these review boards where Jim was like, you know, I'm not going to vote. Like, he didn't want to say no because he knew it didn't matter. Like, we were getting, like, I was saying, like, yes, we should do this. And we we're getting 3 yeses. So he was going to be drowned out. And so, anyways, it's okay. So basically, I got it was like, my job was difficult. So 2 years in, my wife is like, hey, because at the time, my wife's like a full-time mom. My kids started doing ballroom dancing. And we started climbing into debt because my salary wasn't paying enough to live in Los Angeles and to pay for 2 kids doing ballroom dancing. So my wife is like, hey, do something else. I was like, I don't want to do anything else. I adore Sulka. It's called like my baby. It's my baby. Yeah. I mean, I spent 18 years developing software. It was like, I was basically the CEO of a startup. That's basically how you can think of me. And so anyways, making long story shorter is that my management was making my life difficult. I had pressure from my wife to earn extra money. So I started teaching courses online on Udemy and I started publishing books. But that still wasn't enough money. I was getting really frustrated. So I started searching for who needs doors expert on LinkedIn. And I stumbled on this posting in Fort Worth mind you, my wife told me like, don't even bother because she doesn't want to move to Texas. So I went into my interview in Fort Worth, was like, you know what? I'm the best doors expert there is. Like, I mean, find me somebody that would argue that I'm not the most sought after expert. I haven't found anybody. So
Yeah.
I kind of achieved my goal. And so I had the interview. I made, in my mind, pretty astronomical demands where I basically said, hey, I need a big pay raise and I need you to pay for relocating us. So like totally pay. And then I called the one person I knew in Fort Worth. His name is Chris Soyle. So Chris Soyle tells me that the job I just interviewed for was his job, that he actually took up a position working for a program and they'd been struggling to backfill him for like 6 months. So after he double checked that I'd be okay with moving to Fort Worth, we got off the phone and I think he basically made it happen. He basically went back to his manager and said, hey, you don't realize who Alex is. You need to just get him this job.
Nice.
And
So
he got me the
again,
job.
connections, right?
Yes, absolute connections. So if it wasn't for Chris, and if it wasn't for Chris and I talking to one another during 10 years of vendor conferences, this wouldn't have happened.
Okay, so you're at Lockheed now. You're loving it, obviously. We want everyone to come work at Lockheed. So what do you like? What do you like about your day-to-day job, and what are you doing day to day in your
Sure.
current role?
So I will say it's not all roses. It's not all roses, but I love the opportunity to reposition myself at Lockheed as the go-to expert for IBM rational tools. Like basically, as part of working at Raytheon and trying to build my doors toolkit into like this one-stop shopping, I had a lot of pressure from Raytheon IT and from IBM to kind of say, hey, Alex, like stop developing DXL. We've got newer cloud-based technology that's going to do all these things that your DXL is doing. So to make sure that I could maintain an intelligent conversation, I worked very hard at Raytheon to make sure that I knew what the IBM newer technology did. So I studied it like religiously for like 7 years. So we're talking like Doors Next Generation, all these other tools. So it's like, it was funny because IBM, in essence, became my biggest competitor. So IBM is the same vendor who creates Doors and Doors Next Generation. But the thing is that as soon as you switch to Doors Next Generation, you can't use any of the DXL. Like it's totally incompatible. So that made my life's work totally incompatible.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that I could tell people at Raytheon, I was like, hey, if you switch to Doors Next Generation, it's not just apples to apples. Like you'd have to go with like eight new tools, like 8 new tools to make up the functionality we had with Doors in the toolkit. And so at Lockheed, I'm quickly reestablishing myself as the go-to expert for anything IBM rational. Basically, I have the IBM Lifetime Champion for Cloud Award, which I'm proud to say was worldwide. I was the first person in the world that got this award because I'd been an IBM champion for 8 straight years. And then when they started doing lifetime awards, they basically said, well, you know what? Nobody's more deserving than Alex. Like that's who gets it. And so I remember being on stage, getting there's probably like only 5 IBM lifetime champions for cloud. I mean, we're talking like almost nobody in the world. And so that's a distinction. It's like this year, the person that Libby, the one that runs it, she's like, I was like, what do you need? Because every year I had to renominate myself. She's like, Alex, you're a lifetime champion. You could stop nominating yourself. Like, that's it. You're done. So it was a nice, I mean, it's not like she wants me to stop going out of my way with Doors, but anyway, so I blog, I create videos, and I'm really reestablishing myself as the go-to expert at Lockheed for all things Doors DXL or Doors Next Generation. That's what I want to do. The part of my job that I'm not as thrilled about is that I joined an IT team where my role is to basically install the tools as well, which, I mean, I'm thankful that they're giving me the opportunity, and I'm okay with learning as long as they give me help. So I'm just kind of saying like, hey, don't expect me to Google stuff. Like if you give me somebody that like can walk me through it, like that's fine. I'll learn.
Yeah.
But like I'm not wasting my time. Like they could hire somebody fresh out of college and they can do a better job than me. I mean, like my time is way better spent blogging, teaching, consulting.
There you go. So that's a good advice. So anybody coming out of college, you could take Alex's job if you want.
You could join my team. No, seriously, I'm serious. I want to hire an entry-level engineer that can handle the installation and the licensing.
Okay,
point blank.
great.
So if you want to do that, just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Okay, so let's go to some questions real quick because we got a few that came in. I think you already answered this, but you blog, so you have a blog. Can you share the URL for your blog, or is it internal only?
Right. So within Lockheed, I've got like the doors.us.lmco.com, but that's internal.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So
externally, I just recently launched a new website, which is called Produce, Publish, Promote. So Produce, Publish, Promote happens to be the name of my 5th book. And that's basically, that's my outer portal to the world. So I love publishing books. And right now, I don't even want to blog. So like, I like blogging for my day job, but externally, I'd rather focus my efforts into publishing books. So like a best way to learn from me would be honestly to connect with me on LinkedIn and just drop me a whole bunch of questions. Because for those of you that actually started doing this, for the past like 2 weeks, I've been answering questions via LinkedIn videos and I've been tagging. So like Frederick, who's on the call, is one example. We had, like, I don't mind getting like maybe on a phone call with you, but really I want you to drop me messages on LinkedIn, just ask me all sorts of questions and I'll provide answers on LinkedIn. So between
great.
LinkedIn and my website, that's a good way of.
Okay, this next question comes from Matt Moore. He's an electrical engineering student at Purdue. He wants to know, how do software engineers work with other different fields of engineering?
Sure. So that's a great question. So again, it depends on what is the software you're developing. So I'll say with the more typical software engineers, you're typically developed, like, let's say maybe you're developing a display that's going to be part of what the pilot sees that's like in the F-35. Like that could be what you're developing. So you're going to have somebody that really cares about what that display does. So that's going to be the customer. And if you're lucky, you might actually interact with the real customer that comes in to like your reviews. So you'll have to show what your software is doing. Like literally, if I backtrack to like 2001, like when I just started Raytheon, I literally, like my first ever code review where I had to show the code, like unbeknownst to me, my lead was like, "Oh, Alex, Ron here is the customer." I was like, what? He's
Yeah,
like, she brought in like the real
like, what's he
customer
doing
for the
here?
US, like from like the U.S. Navy, and I was like, and I had to go through like 4 code reviews where I had to explain what the code did. It was like trial by fire. I thought I was gonna die, but it was just like, but I made it through. And so you might get a chance to work with like real customers, but on top of that, I mean, so as software, you will definitely work with people that are developing requirements. So again, kind of get back to the requirements. Really, it's mainly in systems engineering space. So systems engineering is really where you want to be if you want to interact with like all the different disciplines. Software is just a discipline that interacts with software and systems. But if you want to interact with everybody, systems engineering is the place to be. And again, if you get into application development the way I am, so like I'm building applications, I'm making doors easier to use. Like that's a tremendous way to interact with everybody because I've helped like electrical, mechanical, hardware, CM, like configuration management, tests, you name it. I've helped everybody like basically use doors easier. And so, but it depends. It depends. So it depends on what software you're doing.
Okay, so this is a question actually kind of related to doors, and this comes from Alexander Beebe. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. He or she would like to know, how would you recommend gaining experience and a foothold to transitioning into systems engineering when common tools like doors and Magic Draw are not used in his or her small business work environment?
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's very little doors training out there. But as I mentioned, if you go on my website, the Produce, Publish, Promote, I've literally found every single piece of content that got recorded. So mind you, I've been to like 50 conferences and God knows how many conference rooms, but because I'm in aerospace and defense, it's very frequent that nobody's taking a video of what you're doing. So that's just
Yeah.
kind of like a staple. So I got my hands on every single interview, every single webinar, and I've got links on my website. So you can learn through webinars. There's also some companies that have spent many years pulling in speakers like myself. So for example, for doors specifically, you can go on 321gang.com and you can also go on Persistent Systems. They have a whole bunch of webinars. Even IBM has recorded webinars. You can go back like the past 7 years. So the beauty here is that doors, even though it's evolving, I mean, really, IBM is making the focus on doors next generation. So I think doors is going to be around forever. IBM is not discontinuing it. It's going to be around for a long time. And Lockheed is going to use doors for a really long time. So there's no need to panic and think that you only need to study doors next generation. That's just like you could if you want to. He's going to keep using doors for a really long time. So I would get your hands on these webinars and just watch them. I mean, even though there's little formal training, you can watch a whole bunch of webinars. Again, just start with mine because, again, I consider myself very knowledgeable and you can get a leg up by just learning what I'm recommending.
Great advice. This question actually is going to come from me. So what are your hobbies and passions outside of engineering? Like what would you be doing if you weren't a software engineer?
Sure. I've got the exact answer. So if I wasn't a software engineer, I'd be a keynote speaker. And I am, well, it's like I'm already going to be a keynote speaker regardless of what I'm doing for my day job. But I've just kind of gotten to that point in my life where I realized, like so many people enjoy learning from me. And it's like, I don't have the time to do one-on-one phone calls. That just doesn't work. So going on a stage where I've got 10,000 people sitting in an audience for like 45 minutes works great because I can be like, hey, here's my story. You want to know more? Buy my books. It works great. So I love publishing books, like absolutely love it. So my hobby, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love spending time with my kids. So like my hobby is just doing anything possible with the kids. And I'll just let you in on something that's worked really great for me. So as part of this COVID-19 lockdown, I realized without traveling to the office, I've got like an extra hour and a half, like to just do whatever. So
Yeah.
I got back into publishing books, realized I really love it. So I'm on LinkedIn a lot more on publishing books. And I told my son, who's like, hey, Dad, could you buy me this? Could you buy me this? Could you buy me this? I'm like, okay, here, this is what we're going to do. You're going to wish list everything. So Amazon and wish.com. He's got a wish list like in the thousands of dollars. He wants like a go-kart and like a whole bunch of stuff. So
it's a wish list, right? Come
exactly. But what I told him, I was like, listen, I need somebody to help me record videos, do photos, do whatever. So I was like, I'll make you a deal. Like you help me with my side business and you get 1/10 of the cut.
There you go. He's like your assistant.
So my son is my rock. He's like, unfortunately he's not here, but I mean, so he's providing all the emotional support I need. Like my daughter and my wife are just kind of like, okay, talk to us when you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
And, but my son is, so long story short, I really like publishing books. And I really
How many books have you published to date?
So I just published my 5th book. So I've got 5. So they're all on kind of like career. I've got a book on using social media inside the walls of a company. I've got one on public speaking, one on growing your professional network. I've got one on getting the most out of industry conferences. And the one that I just published, it's my first book that's in color, which I'm most excited about right now, is that it's basically documenting my 7-step process of taking ideas in my head and getting to a published book on Amazon. So you could literally buy the book, follow the process. And again, my thing is, I don't care if you're a college student. If you follow my process in like, you could literally spend like 10 hours, like 10 hours broken out over the course of a month, and you could publish your own book. It doesn't really cost anything. I mean, like maybe like $100 to get somebody to, but really, I mean, it's the process is so easy. Now that I've done it 5 times, I'm really passionate about the process, and I'm passionate about helping people with the process. So one of the things I'll be doing in the near future is I've already hired a business coach, like a social media coach, and she will help me launch my material on this website called Teachable. It's like a place where people can share content. And I'm really excited because I really like helping people become published authors. So right now I'm just kind of doing it for free with my friends, but I'm having so many people ask me, and again, out of fairness to my family, I'm not going to do it for free. So I'm not going to do it for free. I haven't figured out the exact pricing, but I'm very excited by it because it's not really going to change anything I'm doing. Like I like creating videos. I like helping people. So it'll just be a way to help me take care of my family.
Okay, so let's get, and there's the son there.
Okay, yeah, come on in. So this is the guy that's getting 1/10 of the cuts.
There you go.
That's my son Nikolai, and
he's the man behind the man.
Yeah, he's the man behind the man, and he's really helping. So
okay, so a lot of people, real quick, we got a couple minutes left. They're asking about your LinkedIn profile. Should they just reach out to you on LinkedIn, or do you want to maybe we follow up? We can share.
Yeah. I would say just drop me a connection request on LinkedIn. Now, for those of you just starting out, it might not give you a button that says connect. So you might have to click the more. There's like a little like 3 dots. You might have to click more and then click connect. And it'll ask you like, hey, do you want to add a note? So please add a note to say, hey,
saw you on the webinar.
Engineering Connect or whatever else you want. Okay, now we got, so here we go.
Are they can they dance for us?
No, that's a separate, but what you can do
that costs money too.
is once you hop onto my website, Produce, Publish, Promote, there's right underneath my picture, which was taken like 3 weeks ago by my son. You can click on his name and I'll take you to their website. So
okay, great.
I created a website for them to highlight their dancing, so you can.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to let you go because I know it's your birthday, but let's leave everybody with one piece of advice. Sure. I'm an early career engineer. I want to work at Lockheed Martin. What should I do? One piece of advice.
So So you're already at Lockheed or trying to get in?
No, I'm trying to get there.
Okay, so I can't stress this enough. Just get on LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn, find resources. Again, How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile is an awesome book. I mean, I've actually created my own course on how to optimize your profile, but that's just like a really condensed version. So if you want to just like a 1 hour breeze through, you could try that. But Brenda, I mean, does a tremendous job. She always updates her book. So like go through her book, update your profile. And then like, if you're not comfortable posting, just like start with my content. Just like ask me questions. I will tag you in my posts and just add your 2 cents. Just talk about like what you're doing. Like, I think
Hey,
that'll help you land the job.
I think we're gonna have to do this again, and you can also connect with Alex on Engineering Connect as well. So get on there.
Yeah.
So.
LinkedIn is a better bet because Engineering Connect, like unless you specifically point back, like direct message me, I'm not on there as often as I
Well,
could.
I'm gonna shamelessly plugging it. But anyway,
Okay.
this was great, Alex. I can't thank you enough for your time on your birthday. Hopefully the kids take good care of you tonight. Thanks again for doing this. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a
All
lot.
right.
Definitely let's do something in the future.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Hope everyone enjoyed. Like I said, join Engineering Connect. We'll talk soon.